Hey art therapists, welcome back to the channel. So my name is Christina Testona, brand designer, here to help you find your niche in your business and brand. So today I wanted to talk about accessibility for all. And I really want to address the myths around this topic because it's time to eliminate any kind of exclusivity within our communication materials. So it's time to bring a lot of inclusiveness to website work, especially when it comes to user experience. There's a lot of myths around not needing accessibility, not really focusing on that, etc. And I really want to address a couple of myths in today's video because by 2025, accessibility is going to be a priority in all businesses. That's what the world is actually striving for. So why not get ahead now to really address these problems when it comes to meeting accessibility needs so that the user is going to have the best experience on your website? Because we don't want to feel frustrated when we hop on a website. Of course not. We want to have the most easiest, efficient, best experience ever on the website. So let's go. We're going to start with myth number one. Myth number one in regards to accessibility is basically it's only for the disabled. But that's not true. Accessibility benefits everyone, because it's going to help with being efficient, and it's going to help with getting from point A to point B in a snap of a finger. Everything needs to be smooth and easy to find because we want to eliminate any stress or frustration when it comes to navigating a website. And this is really about inclusivity. And of course, in terms of these new changes happening in the world, in terms of understanding, more of the broader picture here of neurodivergent individuals with, maybe dyslexia, or individuals that, have troubles seeing certain colors, so they need high contrast, or those that get overwhelmed when there's too much content on the page, or maybe there's individuals that need screen readers, etc. There's so many different needs when it comes to reading or digesting information or just navigating in general. Maybe they unfortunately can't use any of the tools, maybe like a keyboard or a mouse. So how can you make the experience simple and easy to use? So we're really thinking about the different minorities within the world, because again, we are becoming more inclusive as a community, as a collective, and we really don't want to exclude anybody, right? So when it comes to accessibility, it really matters to make everything effortless and as simple, clean as possible when it comes to addressing all these different specific needs, because you have to ensure that everyone has the best experience as possible. You do your best. I mean, you're not going to try and meet every person's needs and try to fill each basket of eggs. That's challenging, right? But we're taking a step further by putting more effort in creating such a clean experience for getting to your next page, or accessing a video, or downloading a freebie. You're making the process super simple. Even the communication, step 1, 2, 3, etc. There's so many different tools out there as well to really bring in more accessible elements and maybe easier functionality when trying to get from point A to point B, because that's really what it is, right? Point A to point B sometimes has barriers, and those barriers is what we need to focus on eliminating. So myth number 2 about accessibility is that it only affects a small amount of users. And that is also false, because as we're proceeding through, day-to-day life, things are getting busier and busier. And it's tough to just pick up a computer screen and, open up a website, right? Everybody's on the go. Everybody's on their phone. Everyone's scrolling on the websites, etc. So what's really important here is when you're designing your website, it's time to focus on mobile first design. So when it comes to doing that, really focus on doing the phone version first of your website, then work on the computer version, because people are on the go. They want easy access to your website, and what better way to do it by creating an actual website that fits really well on the phone and functions super crisp and 100% effectively on the phone. So that's one tip I can tell you in terms of really understanding the importance of focusing on the phone and only that. I mentioned before, the world is constantly moving. Everyone is, going here, there, everywhere, right? So they're changing environments. They could be in a noisy environment. They could be in a quiet environment. And again, time is of the essence. So you have to ensure that when this individual is using your website, maybe they're listening to your podcast on your website. So you have to ensure the audio is pretty good when, let's just say, they're in a noisy environment and they can still hear your podcast. Those small details matter when it comes to ensuring that sound works really well on your website. Screen readers as well, make sure they work on your website. If those who are on the go could listen and read your website while they're on a train or while they're shopping, you never know. Another thing to be very wary of is the loading time on your website. So of course, when the individual's on the go, doing all these different things, is the internet connection going to be great? I don't know, right? So when you're designing your website, be very, very mindful of the loading time on your website. And there are some website URLs that I'll link down in the comment box, in the descriptor. They help you test out your actual website speed time. So what you could do here, just to get implementation started for your website, is look at your images, because sometimes when we're uploading images, we usually upload them at their largest size. And we actually want to upload the picture to the size that we actually need it for the website. And that alone will bring a lot more space to your website to load. And that makes it a lot easier when loading a website, when they're on the go, because they're not going to have time to stare at your screen in hopes that your picture will show up, right? Your banner and your bio image, etc. So I will link some tools down in the description box where you can test out your website. And I believe Google Analytics does that as well. So if your website is connected with Google Analytics, the Google Analytics will also tell you your actual website speed, and it will give you that warning sign, red, yellow, and green. So when it's between the yellow and the red, I would definitely assess it, because your website has to be super fast, because people aren't going to stick around if it's so slow to loading, especially when on the phone. So myth number 3, making a website accessible is too complicated. And it really isn't. All you have to do is slowly start implementing it. You're not going to be able to get it done in one go. You will have to build on it because it is a process, but it could be done in a couple different stages. So I would say the first step that you could take today is going through all of your pictures and putting an alt tag on it. If you know what an alt tag is basically a written version describing what the image is. So you're writing a descriptor for the screen readers. So for example, can't see the writing and read it. The screen reader can read the alt text that describes your image. So that's a great way to meet, somebody who, might need the tools to understand your website, but let alone the alt tags could help you in your search engine optimization via Google indexing your page. So when Google scrolls your page, they're going to pick up those alt tags. And that also helps you get noticed as well. So it's a win-win situation here when it comes to bringing accessibility to your website. Another thing that you could do to start making changes today on your website is looking at your colors. Are your colors contrasting enough, right? Because that also brings in visual interest, but hierarchy to your website to know, okay, this is a separate section, this is a different section, etc. So it's helping to organize the information and what belongs. So when it comes to identifying what contrast looks like, take a screenshot of your website, and then in any photo editor that you have out there, you can change the photo into grayscale. And that could tell you whether there's contrast or not. And what I mean by this is when you transform the screenshot into grayscale, you can see if some of your colors are blending together. If, let's just say, they're just gray and they are both the shade of gray, then you know that that's a contrast problem. But when you see something that's a little bit lighter than the color next to it, then you know that you have good contrast. And if you want to push it further, then yes, you could definitely strive for a lighter color here so that there's a stronger noticeable contrast. And then this color here, you can make a little darker. So that's a little tactic in terms of creating a little bit more contrast on your website. Another easy fix that you could do is look at your navigation. Do you have maybe too many in your sub menu? So your menu should probably be, I would say 5 tabs at the safest, because if you have too many tabs, it's going to go right across the screen and it might look a little too overwhelming. And if you have drop-down menus, I would be very careful with how many you do, because the idea is no more than 2 clicks onto another page. Because if you're going to get the user to keep clicking and clicking and clicking, it's just going to get a little bit too much for them. They want it simple. So try to make page navigations as simple as possible. If you can cut it down to 1 to 2 clicks, that would make it a whole lot easier on user experience. And when it comes to the actual navigation menu and how many tabs to have, I usually say 5 is maybe the safest. I wouldn't go to 9 or anything. That might be a little too much. So try to keep it as simple as possible and try to avoid the drop-down menus. But if you can, like I said, 1 to 2 clicks would be easiest. Number 4, it's expensive to make your website accessible. Yes, to a certain extent. I feel that if you take some time to learn about accessibility, it might save you, some time in terms of trying to get to learn this as a DIY. But if you started with the basic steps that I mentioned in the first point, then you're already on your way to making the changes and making things more accessible. Now, if things are a little too technical, then yes, you might have to ask for some assistance there. But there are solutions, right? There's tools out there that will help with bringing more accessibility to your site. You identify where you need to put your attention towards, whether it's, slimming your text, making your images smaller. Those are all great tools to get you started at least. Other videos out there that you could watch and educate yourself a little bit more in accessibility. You can look to Skillshare, even YouTube might have some things. There's a lot of different areas to look at, of course. And as a designer such as myself, you can always ask, me for coaching if you need it in terms of accessibility. Even if you are using the tools, you can also start just implementing best practices as a start. So when it comes to, designing your pages, you just become more conscious about how you're posting things, how you're wording things, how you're breaking up paragraphs, and making things a little bit more easier to read. So maybe you're adjusting your fonts, maybe you're changing your image styles, and maybe you're changing your colors to make them more contrasty. Again, these are great steps to start implementing. And even if you look to plugins on your website, there's probably some free plugins out there that could help you start implementing some accessibility. So that could be like font size changes, or a menu that shrinks for phone. That's a great start. And then as you proceed through developing your website much more, you can make the adjustments. Again, this is not a marathon. This is more of a journey into hobbling into accessibility and making things much more easier. My fifth myth, what a rhyme. My fifth myth of the day in terms of accessibility is a burden to businesses. Not quite, actually. It's actually going to save your business big time, because accessibility is also actually linked to search engine optimization. So if you make the effort into really putting in time to make your website very accessible and easy to find, easy to navigate, Google is going to have the best time searching and scrolling through your website, because now they're able to really understand you clearly and find things easier, of course, and really stretch your reach when it comes to, finding your audience and actually being recognized. And again, it makes you look good as a business, because this is about reputation as well. So if you're putting in the work and making your website as easy and effective as possible, then yeah, you're going to get some really good attention points, because you are putting in the effort and the time. People like that. People will see that you do care. You care about the experience and what the user will feel when jumping onto your website. And as I mentioned before, this is going to boost your SEO, your search engine optimization, because you are establishing more keywords into your content, and you're really being descriptive with your words. So you're going to be found easier. It's going to boost your awareness, etc. And that's a really smart move to make as a business, to really strive in the area of accessibility and being found easier. Like, wouldn't anyone want that? So those are the 5 myths when it comes to accessibility. To wrap it up, I just want to reiterate the 5 big takeaways from this video that you could take with you today and start implementing accessibility elements into your website. So number 1 is accessibility is not just for the people who are disabled. It is for everyone, the collective. It's going to make things so much easier, and it's going to be more of a universal design, universal language, and communication is going to be so much easier that way. Inaccessible websites have more of a broader problem than you think. So, as I mentioned, everybody is on their phones using the websites. So it is a huge problem, and it affects everybody, not just a small percentage of people. So be aware of that putting mobile first when website designing is essential. And common accessibility challenges have practical solutions as well. So using those tools, like I said, in terms of Google Analytics, and starting to implement just those simple changes, fixing large images, making them a bit more smaller and more optimized for websites is a great step in the right direction. Even focusing on colors, making sure that there's enough contrast between the lightest color and the darkest color for an easy read. And then, of course, if you want to make your website accessible, it doesn't have to break the bank at all. There are so many tools online that are free to use, and I'll link them in the description box as well so that you can have a look and see if you can implement them into your website. And at the least cost, of course. And again, if you can make some time to learn about these things, whether it's through YouTube, Skillshare, any of those online platforms, I think that's a great step as well into establishing better practices. And accessibility is not a burden at all. It's actually a strategic advantage for businesses to boost that reputation, to create better experiences, and people will more than likely love you for it. That was all that I have today for the 5 myths for accessibility. And if you have any additional questions about accessibility, leave them in the comment box below, and I will address them as soon as I can. So again, thank you so much for tuning in today's video. I hope this was helpful to you. And again, I hope to see you in the next video.